My captain called me dead weight, and 5 minutes later, I was the only reason anyone on that ship made it out alive. Yeah, that's not an exaggeration. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My name is Lieutenant Aria Bennett. I'm 31 U.S. Navy, navigation officer aboard the USS Halcyon, and until that night, I was the officer everyone quietly avoided being assigned with. You ever walk into a room and feel the judgment before anyone says a word? That was me on the bridge. It wasn't always like that. I graduated near the top of my class. Precision, discipline, calm under pressure, that was my reputation. But one mission, one mistake, that's all it took. No one says it outright, but labels stick fast in the military. Dead weight. That's what Captain Marcus Hale, 48, decorated, respected, feared, called me. Not privately, not quietly, right there on the bridge, in front of everyone. The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. The silence after? That was louder. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. What would have been the point? In his eyes, I was already written off. So I stood there, back straight, eyes forward, swallowing it. But here's the thing. Labels are easy when nothing's happening. When the sea is calm. When systems are stable. When lives aren't on the line. That night, the ocean wasn't calm. The USS Halcyon was running a routine patrol in the North Atlantic. Cold waters, limited visibility, standard operation, nothing out of the ordinary. Until the radio cracked. You know that sound? That sharp burst of static that cuts through everything? It makes your stomach drop before your brain even processes why. At first, no one reacted. We get noise all the time. False signals, glitches. Then it came again. Clearer, desperate. A distress call, short, broken, but unmistakable. Someone out there was in serious trouble. And here's where everything changed, because the captain hesitated. Just for a second. And in the Navy, seconds matter. I remember looking at the console, the coordinates flickering in. Incomplete. Drifting. I remember thinking, if we don't act now, they're gone. But I also remembered something else. I wasn't the one in charge. And the man who was? He thought I was dead weight. So tell me, what would you have done? Waited? Or risked everything and acted anyway? Because what I did next would either end my career or redefine it forever. The signal was fading and no one was moving. That's the moment it hit me. This wasn't hesitation. This was paralysis. The bridge was quiet. Too quiet. Officers glanced at each other, waiting for Captain Hale to give the order. Procedure mattered. Chain of command mattered. But out there, someone was running out of time. "Sir," I said, keeping my voice steady, "we're receiving a distress signal. Partial coordinates, bearing 042, range approximately 18 nautical miles." No response. Hale stood still, eyes locked on the radar, jaw tight. Calculating. Or maybe, doubting. "Signal's unstable," Commander Elias Grant, 42, the XO, muttered. "Could be a ghost ping." A ghost ping. That's what they wanted it to be. Easier to ignore. Safer. But I was already running the data through my console. Wind speed, current drift, signal degradation patterns. It didn't line up with a glitch. It lined up with a vessel in trouble. "Sir!" I pushed again, sharper this time. "If we wait, we lose them." That got his attention. Captain Hale turned slowly. His eyes landed on me, cold, unimpressed. "Lieutenant Bennett," he said, voice low, controlled. "You've done enough improvising for one career." There it was. The past. The mistake. The thing no one would let go. A few officers shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke. The signal crackled again. Weaker. Shorter. Gone. I felt it in my chest. That drop. That certainty. We were about to let someone die, and everyone here would follow orders. even if it meant doing nothing. So I made a decision, not as dead weight, not as the officer they doubted, but as the only person in that moment willing to act. I reached forward, my fingers hovered over the comm switch. 1 second. That's all it took to cross the line between obedience and insubordination. Then I pressed it. Unidentified vessel, this is USS Halcyon. Hold position. We are altering course to assist. Respond if able. The room froze. Every eye snapped to me. I didn't look up. I was already inputting new navigation coordinates, calculating intercept paths, adjusting for current drift. Course correction set. Estimated intercept, 12 minutes at flank speed, I said, voice steady, like this was already decided. It wasn't. Not even close. Lieutenant? Hale's voice cut through the air, sharper now. Dangerous. I finally looked up, and for the first time that night, he wasn't looking at me like I was invisible. He was looking at me like I'd just crossed a line I couldn't come back from. Explain, he said. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about saving a crew anymore. This was about proving whether I deserved to stand on that bridge at all. I took a breath, and I chose not to back down, because what I was about to say next would either force him to trust me or get me removed from duty on the spot. I can plot their drift pattern, but we don't have 12 minutes. That's what I said, and the moment the words left my mouth, I knew. I wasn't just challenging Captain Hale anymore. I was overriding him. The bridge felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were closing in. Hale stepped toward me slowly, not rushed, not angry, controlled, which was worse. Lieutenant Bennett, he said, voice calm but razor sharp, you are acting without authorization on an unverified signal. Unverified. I shook my head. No, sir. The signal degradation, the frequency breaks, it's consistent with a vessel taking on water. They're losing power. A pause. I could feel every officer watching, waiting. Or, Commander Grant cut in, you're chasing noise again. Again. There it was, the past thrown right back at me. But this time, I didn't flinch. Sir, I said, eyes locked on Hale. If I'm wrong, we lose 12 minutes. If I'm right, we lose lives. Silence. Heavy, thick, pressing. And then, the radar pinged. Soft, faint, but there. Contact. Not strong enough to confirm, but not nothing either. That changed everything. I saw it in Hale's expression. Just a flicker. Doubt. Not in me. In himself. Bearing matches her projection, one of the junior officers said quietly. No one told him to speak. He just did. Because now it wasn't just my call anymore. It was real. Hale exhaled slowly, then turned toward the helm. Bring us to flank speed, he ordered. The shift was instant. Energy snapped back into the room. Commands fired. Systems adjusted. And just like that, we were moving. But here's the thing no one tells you about being right at the wrong time. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like pressure. Because now, if I was wrong, there was no hiding it. Minutes passed like seconds. The ship cut through dark water, engines pushing hard. The coordinates refined as the signal flickered in and out. Then, visual contact! All eyes snapped forward. A shape in the distance. Low in the water. Too low. Fishing vessel, someone confirmed. Severe list to port side. It was bad. Really bad. Water already swallowing half the deck. Deploy rescue team, Hale commanded. Boats launched. Crew moved fast. Precise. Controlled chaos. I stayed on the bridge, tracking everything, adjusting positioning to keep us steady against the current. One by one, survivors were pulled from the vessel. Cold. Shaking. Alive. We got them. All of them. And for a moment, just a moment, everything was quiet again. No alarms, no tension, just the sound of waves. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. We did it. I did it. But then I noticed something. Captain Hale wasn't looking at the rescued crew. He was looking at me. Not with anger, not even with respect. With something else. Something colder. Calculated. And that's when I realized, saving those lives wasn't the end of this. It was the beginning of something much bigger. Because hours later, when the official report came in, my name wasn't in it. Not once. I saved them, and somehow I didn't exist. That was the first thought that hit me when I read the report. Clean, precise, official. It detailed the distress signal, the course correction, the successful rescue, and the credit? Captain Marcus Hale. Every decision, every action, every critical call. His. Not a single mention of me initiating the response. Not a single note about who identified the signal pattern. Nothing. Just erased. I read it twice. Then a third time. Slower. Maybe I missed something. I didn't. Standard documentation, Commander Grant said from behind me, his tone almost casual. Command decisions fall under the captain. I turned. I made that call. He didn't argue. He didn't agree either. He just gave me a look that said something worse. It doesn't matter. And that's when the second report came in. Shorter. Colder. Medical and Psychological Evaluation Notice. Subject, Lieutenant Aria Bennett. Status, pending review for operational fitness. I felt my stomach drop. Unfit? For what? For acting? For saving lives? For breaking protocol, Grant said, like he'd read my mind. You acted without direct authorization. So I'm being punished, I said flatly. You're being reviewed, he corrected. Same thing. Across the room, I saw Captain Hale speaking quietly with another officer. Calm, composed, like none of this touched him, like the outcome had always belonged to him. I walked toward him, every step measured, controlled. Sir, I said, stopping just short of the line. He turned. No tension, no hesitation, just that same unreadable expression. You read the report? He asked. I did. And? That word hung there, like a test. You left out the part where I made the call. A pause. Then finally, he stepped closer, lowered his voice. This ship runs on order, Lieutenant, not instinct. People were going to die. And they didn't, he replied, because I made the decision to proceed. That hit harder than I expected, not because I believed it, but because everyone else would. That's not what happened, I said. He held my gaze, unmoved. Prove it. 2 words, simple, final. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't about the rescue. This was about control, narrative, reputation, and I had none of it. No record, no proof, just my word against his. Or at least, that's what he thought, because as I stood there, something surfaced in my mind. A detail, small, overlooked, but critical. The bridge logs, every command, every transmission, every second, recorded. I looked back at him, and for the first time since this started, I smiled. Because if those logs said what I knew they did, then Captain Hale hadn't just taken credit. He'd made a mistake, and I was about to expose it. The truth was recorded, and he knew it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just walked straight past Captain Hale and headed for the systems console. Lieutenant? Commander Grant called after me. I didn't stop, because now, for the first time since this started, I had something they couldn't ignore. Proof. Pulling bridge command logs, I said, my voice calm, steady, controlled. The room shifted. Officers looked at each other, some confused, some suddenly very interested. Captain Hale didn't move, but I could feel it, that slight change in the air. He knew. The logs loaded. Time-stamped. Verified. Uneditable. Every command, every transmission, every second. My fingers hovered for just a moment. Then I pulled up the exact window. There it was. The distress signal. My voice. Clear. Documented. Unidentified vessel. This is USS Halcyon. Then the navigation override. Then the course correction. All logged under my authorization, not his. Silence filled the bridge. Thick. Heavy. Final. I turned the screen toward him. No words. I didn't need them. Captain Hale stepped forward slowly. His eyes scanned the log. Once. Twice. No reaction, but the damage was already done. "You acted before I gave the order," he said finally. "Yes," I replied. "And you followed after." Another silence, but this one felt different, because now everyone knew. Commander Grant cleared his throat. "Logs are definitive, Captain." That was it. The shift. Small, subtle, but irreversible. The investigation didn't take long. Once the logs were reviewed formally, the report was amended. Every detail corrected. My name restored. My actions recognized. Officially. Captain Hale? He wasn't removed from command, but the consequences were real. A formal reprimand. Review of his command decisions. His record, no longer spotless. In the Navy, reputation is everything, and his? Cracked. As for me, the unfit for duty evaluation, dismissed, completely, replaced with something I didn't expect, a commendation for decisive action under pressure, for saving lives, for doing exactly what I was trained to do, even when it cost me. A week later, I stood on that same bridge, same ocean, same uniform, but everything felt different. Not because people suddenly treated me like a hero. They didn't. This isn't that kind of story. But the looks? They changed. No more whispers, no more doubt. Just acknowledgement. Respect, earned the hard way. Captain Hale passed me once. Brief eye contact. A nod. Nothing more. But it was enough. Because I didn't need validation anymore. I had something better. The truth. And the proof that when it mattered most, I wasn't dead weight. I was the reason they made it home.